Hello, this is Mr. Daniels again. We are reading Freak the Mighty, Chapter 21, The Accident of Nature. We all of us had to go down to the police station, of course, where they took a bunch of pictures of the bruises on my neck, then they insisted I get x-rays. So we had to go over to the hospital to get that done, and then go back to the police station again, which wore on my nerves almost as much as being kidnapped. Grim, the second time we go to the cops, he's sitting there in this room with me waiting, and he says, "I can't tell you what it felt like coming out of that basement and seeing that double track of footprints in the snow. I knew it was him, I just knew it in my heart." He kept insisting that Graham go home, which he finally did because we were at the police station for hours more, me telling all about it over and over until I thought I would faint dead away if just one more person asked me what happened after I woke up in the dark and was stolen from my own bed. Graham, he just keeps patting me on the arm and saying, "This is important, Max. Maybe this time they'll lock him up for good." That's what everybody keeps saying. That they got Killer Kane where they want him, in violation of parole, in violation of a restraining order, abduction of a minor, and 2 accounts of attempted murder, me, and the heroic biker babe, which is what the papers took to calling Loretta Lee. The word is she's hurt pretty bad because she cracked a bone in her neck. But she'll be okay in the long run. Iggy, when I saw him that time in the hospital waiting, he was chewing a hole right through his beard. He was so worried. And it made me think, he wasn't such a bad dude after all. It all goes to show, like Grimm says, that you can't always judge a book by the cover. Turns out to be a pretty weird Christmas vacation, as you might imagine, and Graham keeps fussing at me, and she won't let me sleep in the cellar. "I don't care if he is under lock and key," she says. Grim, he says, "Please humor the woman. She's worried about it to death." So I sleep upstairs on the fold-out at night, and Graham keeps checking me to see I'm there. Which is a pain, because she can't help herself, and anyhow, I'm just as glad not to be alone in the down under. Freak, well, Fair Gwen just about threw a fit when he got home, because of him disobeying a direct order and sneaking away to rescue me. But after a while, she calms down, and all she does is just look at him and shake her head. "What am I going to do with you?" she asks. "Put me up for adoption," he says. "I'm going to go live with the Waltons." He means the TV show that keeps repeating, and of course he's teasing her, but the Fair Gwen is not amused. "No more crazy adventures or dangerous quests, young man. You have to be careful," she keeps saying. "Extra careful." Which means the trouble he has sometimes catching his breath because of the way his inside keep growing faster than his outside, which hasn't really grown at all. Freak goes into the medical research place every few months now, which he says is a real pain, not that it actually hurts. "Dr. Spivak says my unique status as a marvel of genetic aberration makes me an object of intense curiosity," he says in that lofty way of his. "Specialists from the world are familiar with my case." "What about the secret operation?" I asked, when the Fair Gwen can't hear us. "The one where you get the robot body." Freak gets this very cool scientific look on his face, and he always says the same thing. "The bionic research continues, my friend. The work goes on." I don't know why I keep asking, because it gives me the creeps. You'd think I'd be as cool as Freak about the idea because it's him that's getting the new bionic body, but it just makes me want to jump up and run around. I keep telling Graham that when Freak's in the hospital for his test, I shouldn't have to go to school because we're like a team. But she won't buy it. "I know Kevin has been a great help to you," she says, "but you got a brain of your own. Haven't you, dear?" Yeah, right. The other thing about school that's different about after Christmas vacation is how jealous everybody is that we got our pictures in the paper and on the local TV. Mrs. Donnelly in English calls us the dynamic duo. She put a cutout picture of from the paper up on the bulletin board. Wouldn't you know it? Some goon put mustaches on us the very first day. Freak says he looks cool with a mustache and he can't wait to grow one. And he makes Miss Donnelly lead the picture up. Me? I just as soon forget about the whole thing. I really hate the idea of having to testify at the trial and tell what really happened, but everybody says I have to if I wanted him locked up for the rest of his life. Which I do, especially after what he tried to do to poor Loretta. who was only trying to help. They can't make you if you don't want to, Freak says. A son doesn't have to testify against his father. Well, Grim thinks it'll do me good. Plus, he's worried that he'll get off again or fool the jury by quoting from the Bible. Grim worries too much, Freak says. Everybody worries too much. The way it finally turns out with Killer Kane, Freak is right. Because just before the trial is supposed to start, and I've got my fingernails chewed down to the second knuckle, Grim gets his telephone call that makes him punch his fist in the air and go, "Yes! Yes!" What happened? They made a deal and Killer Kane pled guilty, which means he has to serve out the rest of the original sentence plus 10 more years. He'll be an old man when he gets out, Grim says. He'll be older than me. That should make me happy, but instead I feel really weird and worried. And Grim, who still thinks he knows everything, says I just have to get used to the idea. Well, the man's an accident of nature, he says. All you got from him is your looks and your size. But you got your mother's heart, and that's what counts. The weird thing is, I keep thinking about is what if something happens when I get older and I turn out to be another accident of nature? Grim sees me thinking about that one night just before bed, and he sits on the end of the bed, and he says, Things will make a lot more sense when you finish growing up, Maxwell. Now sleep tight, and don't let the bedbugs bite. Grim means well, I know that, but sometimes he says the numbest things, because it's growing up that worries me. I think this chapter actually has a pretty good discussion point here that you guys might be thinking about right now. Would Max grow up like his father? I really don't know. Let's weigh some evidence from the book to say, to cite one way or another. Personally, I think the one event that says that possibly he could grow up to be like Dad is a scary event, if you remember, way back in the chapter where his principal called him down to the principal's office. Max had a breakdown. He literally broke down. He was on the floor in a fetal position, covering his ears, screaming about his dad, and obviously a lot of pain from his childhood is seen in that moment right there. When he comes to and wakes up, he absolutely does not know what happened. He thinks that he actually hit a nurse, and he actually did not. But what if Max has one of those moments again, where he loses control of himself, he kind of blacks out. With his size and strength, could he indeed hurt somebody? That's a good question to ask there. So that argument right there might lend itself to yes, it's possible Max could grow up to be like Dad. However, there's the other side. There's the gentle side of Max. You're talking about a guy who is scared of Blade, a guy who outweighs him by quite a bit and is quite more fearsome than Blade. But what Max does is he completely balks at fighting Blade. He runs away. And although Blade is a lot smaller, Max cannot, he doesn't even begin to want to stand up to him because he just does not have that fearsome, he doesn't have that bold personality inside him. I see him as very much as a gentle giant that would do anything but hurt somebody. And I wish Max would know that. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and let you guys decide that for yourselves. Thank you so much for reading Chapter 21 of Freak the Mighty. We're going to go ahead and close off here. And wish you guys all a wonderful and pleasant day.